You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
We're standing outside 8 Royal College Street in Camden Town, which in 1873 was briefly the residence of two of the most influential poets in French literature, Arthur Rimbaud and Paul Verlaine. This was actually their second place of residence, they having spent 1872 on Howland Street. That first house isn't hard to find today, it's on the same spot as the BT Tower. It was here, in Camden Town, however, that Rimbaud and Verlaine's scandalous and destructive relationship reached its climax. Rimbaud and Verlaine first met in Paris in 1871. Verlaine was 27 years old, an obscure but celebrated poet, and a vicious drunk. Rimbaud was 16, precocious but possessing an extraordinary talent for symbolic, sometimes scatological verse. Rimbaud ambitiously sent a letter to Verlaine with his latest poems, and unlike the many other poets Rimbaud wrote to, Verlaine replied, "Come, dear great soul, we call to you, we wait for you," enclosing a one-way ticket to Paris. Rimbaud travelled to join him, carrying nothing, not even a change of clothes, only some manuscripts. The two soon became lovers, albeit dysfunctional, sadistic lovers, drinking, smoking opium and hashish, and not sleeping or changing their clothes for days at a time. This took its largest toll on Verlaine's wife and their infant son. Many times Verlaine returned home drunk and abusive. His anger reached its climax in December when he attempted to strangle his wife and threw his son against the wall. Luckily the child was unharmed, thanks to his thick swaddling clothes. After this incident, Verlaine fled with Rimbaud, first to Brussels, then to England, arriving in Dover in September 1872 and travelling by train to London. London in the 1870s was crowded with French refugees. After the dissolution of the Paris Commune, politicians, journalists, writers and agitators all fled under penalty of death. They mostly lived in squalid rooms around Leicester Square and Soho, in dire poverty, as finding work was impossible. Close cooperation between the London and Paris police meant that every obstacle was placed in the way of their livelihoods. The few routes available, teaching French or writing for American newspapers, were oversubscribed. Verlaine and Rimbaud, with their dishevelled outfits and slouched movements, were a perfect fit. At first, they both felt lonely and homesick. "A flat, black bug, that is London," Verlaine wrote to a friend. They settled in quickly, however, living off money from Verlaine's mother and devoting themselves entirely to poetry and drinking. They walked for miles, from pub to pub and opium den to opium den, seeing the sights, theatres with piteously thin actresses, and smelling the rising smell of feet. Rimbaud lied about his age to get a reader's ticket at the British Museum. This soon became a second home, with free heating, free lighting, and librarians who didn't judge them on the state of their dress. There were also the unpublicised gay parts of the city. Verlaine and Rimbaud didn't disguise their relationship, they openly boasted of it, shocking other refugees and fueling rumours and blackmail. Rimbaud and Verlaine's relationship didn't need added pressure, however. It was spiralling out of control on its own, especially by the time they moved here to Camden Town. In their final months together, they devised a game whereby they lunged at each other with knives. Once they drew blood, they went to the pub. The final straw was, in contrast, a minor scuffle. On the morning of the 4th of July, 1873, Verlaine returned from the shops with a salted herring in one hand and a bottle of oil in the other. Rimbaud roared with laughter. If only you knew how fucking silly you look with that herring in your hand." The herring then hit Rimbaud in the face. Verlaine stormed out, without luggage, to catch the first boat to Antwerp. Rimbaud's letter to Verlaine after this incident is desperate. "Come back, dear friend, only friend, come back. Tell me you haven't forgotten me. You couldn't. I always have you with me." Verlaine replied with his usual threat: "If at the end of 3 days I'm not reconciled with my wife in perfect amity, I'm going to blow my brains out." Rimbaud's response: "Your wife will either not come at all, or else she'll only come after 3 months, 3 years, what do I know? And as for dying, I know you well. You'll get all worked up in a great state of excitement, you'll wander around in a great pother, and bore a whole lot of people." Verlaine and Rimbaud didn't meet in London again. Rimbaud went to visit Verlaine in Brussels, and explained that he was leaving to Paris without him. Verlaine then shot at his former lover 3 times. One bullet hit Rimbaud's wrist, and Verlaine was later sentenced to 2 years hard labour for attempted murder. Somehow, during this exhausting melodrama, both poets wrote what are now considered to be their greatest works. Verlaine's collection Songs Without Words is full of travellers and wanderers, niches for hidden loves and hard drinkers. The clearest conclusion he reaches on his relationship is in 2 bare, almost sentimental lines. "You see, we have to be forgiven things. This way happiness lies." Rimbaud, in contrast, was a wild innovator of prose poetry, and his Illuminations describes London with vibrant, futuristic imagery. The imperial glare of the buildings, the eternal snow on the ground, chalets of glass and wood which move on invisible rails and pulleys, castles of bone. It is fitting that the silver, bone-like structure of the BT Tower ultimately replaced one of his homes. For Rimbaud in particular, however, the greatest influence London had was not the hallucinations in opium dens, or the futuristic cityscape with walkways under the Thames and trains over the streets, or even in his violent relationship. It was at the docks. Rimbaud made the sailors he met there describe the sights of their journeys, the mysteries of their nomadic lives, lives of action rather than poetic contemplation. The docks brought back childhood dreams of travelling to the far ends of the world. After leaving his lover and publishing Illuminations, Rimbaud gave up writing poetry altogether to become a merchant and arms dealer in Cyprus and Yemen. He was only 21 years old.